All right, man. Torture Talk. Like, share, subscribe to the page. Hit the thumbs up button if you like the content. All right, so I want to just talk about something real quick. Um, I'm not gonna really do no video reviews and it like that. I just want to talk about something real quick, and I'm starting to notice a shift. Um, and I want to speak on DC and Marvel comics. Um, the last She-Hulk episode was terrible too. Just to put that out there. So, um, I think this is the beginning of the end of the feminist movement in movies. And I say that because the audience are constantly rejecting this. Now, some people probably going to say to me, well, they're going to keep pushing it forward and then people will get used to it eventually. I don't see that happening. I see Hollywood is losing a lot of money. They're losing a lot of money. And I don't think Hollywood wants to keep losing money. So I'll say that this is the beginning of the end. Because if you look at all the scores, and I think I did a video about that and I posted it up, what percentage of the audience, it's not that they're racist, it's not that they just don't like the material. And you got activists writing your material. People don't like that. People want organic stuff. So even if you had an activist writing it, at least make it interesting to the point where there's a point to it and it comes up over time. When you write something that's just a clear cliche, like the scene in She-Hulk where she says that she's she's basically more oppressed than the Hulk, and she has to control her rage infinite more times than he does, and all this stuff. And it's like, are you kidding me? See, stuff like that is a turnoff, and it's not just a turnoff to men; it's also a turnoff to women, because you have a clear agenda, and people see this. But I think that this is becoming a thing where this is towards the end, going in the beginning stages of it, because I'm starting to notice that DC has canceled a lot of these movies, and I think that DC is gonna go non-woke. I ain't gonna say they ain't gonna go full non-woke, but they're gonna have some inclusivity there, but it's not gonna be just based on that. And I think that that's what DC is going for, and I can see DC being more successful than Marvel at this point if they push for that. But you have to do it now. You have to. One of the reasons why I think they haven't, or the old regime hasn't brought Zack Snyder back, because Zack Snyder didn't really talk about all that in his movies. His movies basically were, in his DC movies, were basically comic book driven movies. That's it. It wasn't. It wasn't about uh, 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 diversity or inclusivity and transgenderism and all this stuff. It wasn't about that. Now, if you want to say that these movies are being progressive by doing that, these newer movies, so be it. That's what you feel. But to me, it's not being progressive, because a lot of times something that appears to be progressive is really not, because they're only using you just to get people to come to the theater. It's not like it's really progressive. It's just, okay, yeah, we're gonna do this, and that's it, and we'll see where it goes from there. Let's just hire some new people. But they seeing that this is not working now. It's not working out the way they thought. It's not. She-Hulk is not as successful as they thought. Where's Captain America? Where's Iron Man? And it's not that people just don't like She-Hulk. It's just they want the real back. They should have never made She-Hulk a comedy. It's nothing funny about a woman going through stuff. Why is that funny? Why is that funny? It's not funny about that, but yet and still, that's what they did. And this is the results they're getting. Same thing with Captain Marvel. Cast a woman who doesn't even play the part. No build up to the character. Just yeah, it's just cast a female lead. It's not wrong with a female lead. But if the story is corny, then it's corny. You can't get around that. It's trash. I don't care. There's a lot of trash male leads. There's a lot of them. That's my thing. So when we talk about female leads and the first this and the first that, it's like really. It's the same thing with Game of Thrones. And it was like, oh well, this is the direct evidence of the patriarchy, and you don't want women to be in charge. First of all, if you know anything about Game of Thrones, two women sat on the throne, Cersei and Daenerys. So what are you talking about when you say, oh, that doesn't happen? It did. It did already. So you can't say that. Evenly distributed. That's why Game of Thrones was so classic. And I see what they call that these bloggers saying, oh, Game of Thrones was this last season was a disaster. The last season was better than 95% of shows ever on television. Still. There's only a couple of shows that I think is actually better than the last season of Game of Thrones, even though you consider it bad. 95% of shows ever on television wasn't better than Game of Thrones season 8. So even and a lot of times the reason why they say that season 8 wasn't good is not because the writing wasn't good or not because the acting wasn't good. It's because it didn't end the way they wanted it to end. That's why. They're crying about it. Oh, I can't believe that they let Arya kill the Night King. That didn't make any sense. And why did Jon Snow? Oh my God! Like that's why they don't like it. It's not that they don't like it because it was actually bad acting or it was a bad script or that's what they chose. So miss me with the season 8. I don't care if you're saying season 8 wasn't good. It's better than 95% of shows ever on television. Still, to this day. And whether you want to say, well, that's not saying much, it is. That's 95% of shows on television. And if you're gonna judge a whole season, a whole series off of the last season and say, oh, well, the whole series was trash because the last season was trash, then your opinion is not valid. I don't care what you say. It doesn't matter what you say to me. It doesn't matter. But I'm sorry I had to go on that real quick rant. But either way, this is the thing. I'm seeing the decline. And I see Marvel are doubling down. They pushing more for the feminist movement, feminist inclusivity, feminist. And it's not about that. It's about telling good stories. And if you can tell a compelling story and a female protagonist is the lead role in the movie or whatever, then I'm all for that. But if you only telling this story just so you can project how you feel about the patriarchy or the matriarchy or whatever you want to call it, if you just feel as though you have to project how you feel about the world and the men are so evil and the government is on top of me and all this stuff. If you got to do that through fantasy movies and everything you say and everything you do is through these type of movies and shows, then you shouldn't be a writer. You should write something serious. Go write a journalist column or something. Stop. Don't try to write it in fantasy. It's fantasy. Like you trying to make fantasy reality. No. In some fantasy, of course, you have humans playing these parts, but it's not based in reality. That's why it's called a fantasy. But either way, I think this is the beginning of the end of the feminist movement. And I'm starting to see a lot of companies are going to start pushing. I think they're going to keep the inclusivity. I ain't going to say they're going to stop that because I think that they should. But I also believe that they're going to start pushing more towards going back to the way it was because nobody's buying it no more. And I think if Marvel keep going down this path, they're done. You're going to start to see Marvel was making billion dollars, and Disney just doubled down on everything. And it's so corny to me how they do that. It's like, come on, man. Come on, you got to stop this. Disney and all these shows, y'all got to stop this. Y'all gotta start creating good shows. Man. Torture talk, you know what it is. Feminist movement is out of here, man. I'm starting to see it right now.